Okay, now, great. So, hi everyone. We are at the end of week 3 of this MOOC. It's ICT-based learning activities. It's a design studio approach. And today we will go through this week's activities. Then we have 2 guests. Also, Yishai will give some feedback on the contributions of the participants, and Carlos will introduce us the Podlet we have created with the ICT-based activities and the scenarios you've chosen. So this week, I think it was a lot of work. Many of you mentioned that several of the activities required a lot of work. You started with creating, searching for existing ICT-based learning activities, and with all these contributions, we have created a Podlet. You mentioned it was a lot of work, and I hope it was enriching anyway. And then okay, and then you had to define the heuristics. Heuristics are principles. We tried to make it easy for you, and next week you will see the objective and the purpose why you are doing this. Then you have been introduced to the scenarios, and you had the resources from Educos to learn about other scenarios. So as part of this week's convergence session, we have two participants, and I'll let Gemma introduce them. And thank you for joining us today.
Hello, everybody. Today we are happy to share this session with 2 participants of the course. They are Eleni and Margarita. Eleni is a secondary school, English secondary school teacher, and Margarita is a literature secondary school. And well, later in the session we will talk with and they're gonna explain some doubts and curiosities and reflections about the course.
So I don't know, Eleni and Margarita, do you want to say hi and your background, and also maybe say something in Greek? Do you want to start, Eleni? I don't hear you. You need to unmute. Yes, now we hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Hi, I'm Eleni. I'm an English teacher in a northern Greek island called Limnos. I've been here for about 7 years. I found out about this course on my e-tweeting newsletter, and it seemed really interesting. That's it. Let's go to Margarita.
Thank you, Eleni. Hi, Margarita. You need to unmute your micro.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We can hear you now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Margarita Papageorgiou. I'm Greek. I'm at Chalkida, junior high school, or Lykia, as we say. I'm a teacher for 23 years. I teach Greek, ancient and modern Greek language and literature. And the design learning and with the use of ICT tools is something of a trend to us here in
I think Margarita has some network problems at some point. So maybe, Yishai, you want to take it now and ask them some questions, or you're muted as well.
Yes, now I'm unmuted. So maybe we'll just quickly go through, there were activities for this week. We started by looking at existing ICT learning activities, and we pointed you to some collections of learning designs and activities. I wonder, Eleni, if there was something there that really caught your attention, or you sort of thought was very interesting for you.
Sorry. Well, there were too many to choose from. It was a new world opening in front of me. I enjoyed mostly those that gave the, let's say, in quotations, the teacher role to the students, to make them active in their learning. Like creating a game based on grammar, or making a video, to make a speaking exercise, to practice something. That's what I was really interested in.
And I wonder, last week you were creating personas, right? And did that help you when you were thinking about looking at various activities? Did you think back to your personas and think about, put your students in these activities and imagine how they would work, how they would experience these activities?
Yes, I try to keep the persona and the heuristics in mind to choose the ICT tools.
So that's good. And I think that also, I mean, when earlier we were talking, before we went live, about how, how much there is to take in and how little time you have. So obviously, when you're presented with all these collections of existing activities, and then you have to kind of, it can be a bit overwhelming, but luckily all these resources will be available for you after the course is finished, so you can go back and revisit them, and when you have to plan a lesson or a learning activity, you remember that, well, you can look at some examples in these places. Now, the next activity we had this week was about defining heuristics, and in a way there was a very lightweight for us to introduce the whole idea of evaluation. And I think that we're very used to assess our students' learning, but we're not so used to do an evaluation of the way that we plan and design our teaching. And the idea here was that before you even go in and design your learning experience, you think about what are the criteria by which you want to evaluate it. Now, I know that a lot of people found this task a bit confusing, but I don't know, Margarita and Eleni, maybe you can comment on, did this activity, the defining the heuristics, did that make sense to you? Did you find that activity useful?
At the beginning, it was kind of confusing. But when I went through the Nielsen heuristics list, it started becoming quite clear. And they became more understandable to me.
Nielsen's heuristics, I mean, that's, the heuristic evaluation method comes from usability engineering in software systems, so that's where Nielsen comes from. But then it was adapted to e-learning, so some of the usability heuristics that Nielsen presents could be really applied directly to learning and teaching. Some of them are less relevant. On the other hand, other people have suggested various heuristics that are more specific to your educational situation. Now, I don't know, Eleni, for instance, did you come up with some heuristics that are based specifically on the way that you teach and the way your students learn?
Well, I don't think that they are so detailed. I tried to find heuristics that had to do with fully engaging my students in the lesson, making them feel comfortable, to make the lesson exciting, not boring. That's what I tried.
Yeah, that sounds a very reasonable approach, and I think that hopefully again that's a tool that now when you design lessons, in practice, when you're thinking about your lesson next week or next month, and you can kind of think about, okay, what do I want to make sure that happens in this lesson? As you said, that the lesson is engaging and is clear to the students what they're expected, and so on. Margarita, what about you? How did you engage with this task?
Well, I think everything is, all the activities are interacted one with the other. I mean, first you describe your persona, and then you try to define its context. And then after you see your persona in context, then you try to design the learning and find the heuristics for this evaluation. I found the evaluation very useful because it's very important to have in mind exactly what you want to do. And if you know exactly what you want to do with the learning design, the lesson that you have designed, then you can ask for the evaluation. I mean, this evaluation protocol helps the teacher understand better her aims, the teacher aims and goals, because you ask others to evaluate certain things. So you have to be specific about these things. And to say something about that, when at first I post my first evaluation protocol, heuristics activity 13, I don't know how to call it, I had the feedback from Yishay, too much. You've written too much. You have put a lot of things inside. And it's very challenging, very heavy for the evaluators to score on each one. And I changed it then, afterwards, because this makes me understand that if we have, let's say, 10 things in mind, specific and maybe restricted, then it's easier to find our way inside the learning process. So I think it was very useful. It was very stressful, let's say, to find everything and read everything. But at the end, I think it is very useful.
Yes, I mean, I think the way you described it is, I couldn't describe it better. So, the way that you explained that by thinking about evaluating the activity, you actually think more deeply and more concretely about what are your aims, what you're trying to achieve in this activity. That's something that I think, we should have written that, in the activity description, because that really captures it so nicely. So after that, you looked at scenarios and different tools for the writing scenarios. And Eleni, I think you wanted to share your scenario with us and tell us. Maybe we can look at it in detail and see what you've done there and think about it together.
Okay. One moment. Can you see it? Can you see my scenario?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. So my activity had to do with creating a presentation on present simple versus present continuous. I work in a junior high school and my students are 12 to 15. I chose the first class of junior high school. They would be working in their classroom, at home, and in the ICT school lab. I created a scenario that would take 45 minutes for each session, 4 sessions. The first session had to do with creating the teams and selecting the topic. For that, I chose Team Up. To be honest, I'm not sure how it actually works, but through some descriptions, I found out that Team Up is like creating a virtual classroom and grouping your students up And you could also get some feedback from your students. The students can send you some news flashes and give you group reports, tell you how things are moving on, if they have any problems, what they have done, what they will do in the future. Some notes that I made is that it might take extra time to bond and start collaborating. I'm talking about the team members. And get used to the IC tool too, because as my Greek colleagues know, we don't use a lot of ICT tools. Actually, the only ICT tool I use is the interactive whiteboard and the projector, that's all. Another thing that I noted is that some of the members of the team might ask to change the team. That happens all the time. Whenever I group my students in teams, they ask me to change the team all the time. But as I looked through the description of Team Up, I saw that it's not a good thing to change teams because they will lose their work up to that point. Okay, that was session 1. Do you want me to go through all the details, or should I be more general about it?
Yeah, let's continue. Just maybe not go through the whole activity, but let's go through, session 1 and 2, and maybe then just give us a very quick overview of the last sessions.
All right. So the last session, the second session is getting the material for the presentation. The objectives, as I note down here, are brainstorming and learning how to collect and refine the material they find. I thought of providing them some links referring to present simple and continuous, and I ask each group to browse through the links to check what they can include in the presentations, and to test it for the first time. I asked them to get just one piece of material they found in the links and put it in a Padlet to gather all the material they found, one piece of information from each team member, just to test it. Then the teacher gives the first feedback to tell the students if the information they found is relevant or not. And then I ask them to start creating their presentation on the Google Drive presentation ICT tool in order to start creating it. Here are the links that I provided them with. Most of them are some theory presenting the contradiction between present simple and present continuous, and a video that where people are speaking and using present simple and continuous in different situations. I note down that there might be a problem going from one thing to another, going from the Padlet to the Google Drive could be confusing. So then I say, why not use only Google Drive, where their final presentation is going to be formed. And anyway, during the last session, I asked them to create a presentation, to take it from the Google Drive and put it on Screencast-O-Matic. Screencast-O-Matic is a tool where the students can talk through during their presentation and turn it into a video. And then once I don't know, am I being clear or I'm a little confusing you?
For me, it's very clear. I hope that it's also clear for others, but for me, it seems very clear and very well thought. So, okay. But I think we should, like I said, just considering the time we have, maybe just kind of give a very brief overview of the rest of the activities, and then we can discuss this.
Okay, the final activity they had to do is to present the videos in class and then assess each other through a questionnaire. And one of the questions are here: was the presentation easy to follow and understand? Did the presentation keep you interested in the topic? So the students assess their own team and the other teams. Of course, the students might be subjective when they are providing criticism towards their own team. They would say our presentation was the best. So I thought of discussing it before them, that what I write down here, the teacher should discuss this before assessment procedure and stress the value of an objective point of view. And the next step was to ask them to make a game where the main point is present simple and present continuous. A game that would include practice on the theory that they presented us in class. That's it.
Well, I say that, I'm definitely very impressed. I think it's you clearly show that you put a lot of thought into this and looked a lot both on the pedagogical issue and the technological issues. I noticed we have a question from the question and answers about heuristics, but let's keep that for a moment and remember that question and come back to it after we've discussed Eleni's scenario. And perhaps before we, as the sort of the facilitators, comment on this, maybe some of the participants want to comment on Eleni's scenario. So whether I mean the people through the chat or through the question and answers in the Hangout. Margarita, maybe you want to say something about this, about Eleni's design. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. I think it was a very interesting scenario. It had all the necessary stages, let's say. I mean, the preparation, and then a little by little, the stages necessary for the children to interact and collaborate and make something, create something, and show it to the other pupils. And I think that it's, I don't know about the use of one or two tools that you used, Eleni. I don't know them, but I think that it is doable, let's say, for the Greek reality in schools. And it's very creative. Groups of students do something, create something, engage themselves joyfully, let's say, playfully, inside the classroom. I think it's very good. Do you want me to say something else?
Yisha, you are muted.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay, now. We cannot hear you. Your micro is mute. Oh, now yes. Thanks.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect, Yishai.
Yes.
Okay. Margarita, do you have any suggestions, any comments about things, ideas how Eleni might be able to improve this activity, or whether there are some things that you think might be risky and she needs to look more carefully at and make sure that they work?
I'm not sure she has heard the question.
Margarita, did you hear my question?
I didn't hear anything. I have problems with the connection, but now I can hear you.
Yes, I was asking if you might also have some
Oh.
suggestions. We've lost Margarita.
Yes.
Yes, well, she's coming back.
Now,
Yes, I was asking if you have also some suggestions for Eleni about how she could improve this activity or risks that she needs to think about and plan carefully for.
I think maybe she can try the heuristics protocol. Maybe she could try this lesson with 2 or 3 of her friends or teachers, colleagues, and try to write down the evaluation, the heuristics, 5 or 10 heuristics, the aims that she has in mind for this specific learning design, and then it would be better, because you have to try it to see the results that you can get. That's my suggestion.
Well, that's a great suggestion. I think we should ask you to join the course team, because what you suggested is exactly what we're planning for next week.
yes.
So you seem to have it all sorted. But when you said heuristics, I thought you were going to suggest something else, because the last phase in Eleni's scenario was when students evaluate each other's presentations, right? And I think, Eleni, you yourself noted that students aren't used to evaluating each other's work. And it will be very hard for them to be systematic and objective when they're evaluating each other's work. So I think you need to think about kind of some sort of scaffolding to help them when they're evaluating each other's work. So it could be that you just give them some criteria, some specific questions to ask each other, or maybe phrase that as some sort of heuristics. So try to actually help them develop, do a sort of heuristic evaluation of each other's presentation. So that's just one thing to think about. Generally, like I said, I thought that it was very well thought and designed in terms of the pedagogy. I mean, the fact that you started by giving time for team formation, because that's something that we know in group work is also always a challenge, and we need to give enough time for people to form teams. The process of producing the presentation, that they first brainstorm and then they collect resources, and then they use those resources and create a presentation. I think that was a very good process. And then, there's various questions about the specific choice of technologies. For instance, if you're working essentially in a face-to-face classroom, so I'm not sure that you need something like, like Team Up. I'm not very well familiar with the tool itself, but I suspect that Team Up is built more for virtual teams, right? Where in your case, the teams can meet face to face. So it might be that it's a bit of an overkill, and what you need is actually just to give them a shared workspace. You can use Google Drive or Dropbox or any other sort of system that allows them to share their work. What we've also used in other projects is Google Sites. So if your school has Google Apps installed, or if you want to install Google Apps for your school, then you can have each team create a site using Google Sites and use that as their work area, right? But what I'm saying is that you don't have to solve everything with technology and with always the most kind of sophisticated technology. Sometimes the best way to get people to work together is to have them sitting around the table, right? And table is also technology. So that's in terms of the teamwork. Again, in terms of the presentation, you chose I think Google Presentations, which is, that's definitely a good tool. Of course, there are other options. They could use PowerPoint, they could use Prezi, they could produce a video. If they have like camera phones, they could shoot a video and upload it to YouTube. So the actual format of the resource they produce is something that you need to consider, and there's no right or wrong answer there. It's just what happens to work best in your context. Finally, I think there's always extra motivation for students if they create something that they can show outside of the classroom. If they can show it to their parents, to their friends, if they create a video that they can put on YouTube and get feedback for it. Now, of course, there's risks with that approach. First of all, issues of privacy and data protection, a risk of when you put something in the public, you might get some very negative responses, and that's hard to deal with. So again, it's a matter of balancing those factors and thinking about what's the best medium for the students to present their work. But those are the the kind of comments that come to me sort of just off the top of my head. I think that as it's obviously there's a lot of details that you need to work out, but the idea of a scenario is just to have the sort of the top level view first, and then go down and drill into the details of each step. So as a scenario goes, I think that you capture the right level of detail here, and now you'll have to continue working on the details. The only thing I have to say is, I do hope you eventually do actually use this activity with your students, because I think it looks like they would enjoy it and they would learn from it. And so, yes, it looks like you've come up with something very useful here. So maybe if other Gemma, Muriel, Carlos, maybe if anybody wants to comment on this.
Well, I think I would add with you and Margarita that the scenario is very creative and it's very thorough. So I think it's really interesting and challenging for the students. My only concern is that it's very ICT based, and you are using and swapping from one tool to another. So you need to be aware that will require a lot of work and might need a lot of preparation, and then maybe students will need a lot of help. So you might want to start trying just maybe one tool, because you're using Padlet and the Team app and then Google Apps and Screensomatic and Scratch, which is a whole programming environment for games. So I'm sure your students will be thrilled and really happy with the activity, but you will have to do a lot of work. But congratulations, it's really amazing. So I don't know, yeah, if Margarita wants to add something, or you want to comment on your scenario or your heuristics, or you want to add something else?
Yeah. I don't know. I have in activity, what is 13 with the heuristics. I wrote down that I have a scenario in mind. I've made one in the Greek LAMS lessons tool. I haven't posted because it's the Greek sequence, let's say. And I've made the evaluation heuristic based on this scenario. I like very much the LAMS lessons tool. It is a tool. Is it a tool? The LAMS lessons? Yes? No? I don't know. But I like the sequence very much there that you can build to present a lesson, because you can get the feedback, you can, on the course of the lesson, you get the feedback. You have forums there for the groups of your students to speak and interact and have some results. I think the last lessons is and I found it handy for me. And for the students, you have to go to the technology lab so that a group of students can sit in front of a screen, and all of them at the same time, they engage at the stages of the sequence of the lesson, and they have interaction as well, and the feedback. Okay.
Yeah, I think LAMS is a very interesting tool. What's unique about LAMS is that it's an environment that allows you first to design your learning activities and then to execute them. So you use the same environment both for designing and for running the activities. That has an advantage in terms of streamlining the process. It has a disadvantage that it requires you to have LAMS installed and have students sit before computers. So it's mainly for computer-based activities. Now there's of course, there are ways to integrate LAMS with other tools, and also you can use LAMS to design an activity and then just print out the design and use it in a face-to-face classroom. But it's definitely, a tool that's interesting to look at. There will be other tools. So, for instance, in ILD we have Web Collage, which is also a tool for designing collaborative learning activities. And Eleni, for instance, you can try maybe if you have the spirit, the adventurous spirit, you can try to use Web Collage to do the detailed design of your activity. Margarita, I haven't seen your scenario, by the way. The fact that you wrote your scenario in Greek shouldn't stop you from using ILD to share it, because there are a lot of Greek-speaking participants in this MOOC. So it would be hard for me to comment on a learning design in Greek, but there'll be other people who can do that. So please don't hesitate to use it in any language that you're comfortable with. And the other thing is, I don't know, Eleni, if you have some sort of like virtual learning environment or any sort of technology that you use regularly in school? Eleni?
We only have interactive whiteboards in only 4 classes, which we actually use only as projectors. The ICT lab is mostly for the computer science teacher, and let's say once a year we can use it. We have a lot of practical problems.
It sounds like a very typical situation, I would say, in a lot of schools, but yet, if I understand right, most students would have access to computers and internet at home, right?
Yes, yes. Most of them have their own laptops or even tablets. Of course, mobile phones.
And they bring their tablets or laptops to school?
That happened once. I think about 3 years ago. The government provided free netbooks to the first class of junior high school, but that didn't work at all, because most students turned their netbooks into game downloading, devices. They didn't use it.
Maybe the government should read some papers about the educational value of games, and then they won't think of it as a failure. But no, what I'm saying is that, referring to Muriel's comment before, that you're asking them to move between a lot of. I mean, first of all, the activity sequence itself is quite complex, and you're asking them to use a variety of different tools. And the way to make it easier is to have, just like we have for this course, that you have everything online and you go through the activities one by one, and it always tells you what you need to do and which tool to use, then you can set something similar like that for your students. So, you know, it might be hard for them to use that in a classroom, but at least when they go home and if they meet, either if they meet at each other's house or if they work separately but using a sort of online tools to collaborate, then if you kind of give them something that really walks them through the process and links to all the tools they need and maybe shows them some examples of how they could use these tools, then it would make it much easier for them. So as Maria said, you know, there's some work you need to do beforehand to set this up, but it's not impossible. And as I mentioned, you know, using tools like, well, you could use Moodle or you could use other sort of kind of e-learning platforms. There are some free e-learning platforms that you could use to set up your classroom space, or you could use Google Sites. And so depending on, you know, what tools you feel comfortable with, just kind of set up those resources beforehand, and that should make it easier for your students. Okay, so I think, I mean, at least for me, this is a very, very interesting conversation. I wish we could have this kind of conversation with each one of our 700 participants. But I hope that at least for others, it's useful to learn by looking at your example. And again, I want to encourage people to take the time to comment on each other's work, because you learn as much from commenting on somebody's work as much as you learn from reading their comments on yours. So perhaps, Maria, do you want to move on to the work that Carlos and Gemma have done?
Yes, I was thinking maybe we can move to Carlos. He will show us the Puppet, and then we will go back to Margarita if she wants to add something about her experience and any comment about her contributions or the course in general. So, Carlos?
Okay, good. So, hello everybody. First of all, thank you for all your contributions in activity 12 and 13. Really, we have received, I counted like almost 80, I think 80 contributions, so that's a lot. It has meant also a lot of work in order to build the concept map with the Puppet. And well, now let's just have a look at how the Puppet is. So, yeah. Can you see it in the screen now, the Puppet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Okay.
Sí, Ronnie. I ara selecciona i pantalla completa. Selecciona.
Okay, what about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it.
By the way, we really recommend you to use this tool, Puppet. I don't know if you know it, but it's a free, very to use tool that also allows collaboration. I think that for a maximum of 10 people, and it's very useful if you want to build maps like this. So it's really, really easy to create an structure like this. So if you want to build a map in a short period of time, we really recommend you this tool. So in this map, well, you can see that there's a lot of squares, fields, wherever you can tell them. So we have grouped all your contributions in two categories. One category is the scenarios that come from the EduCourse scenarios that you looked at in the activity 12. And then we have the red squares that are the reviewed activities that you posted for the activity 13. And these scenarios and these activities are grouped into categories. And categories are the black squares. So, for example, here we have a category which is called challenge-based learning, inquiry-based learning, which has two scenarios from EduCourse and has 4 of your activities. So, in this Puppet, you will see that some of you have chosen the same activities, so many of them are repeated. In other cases, we haven't have the possibility to access to the link that you provided because the link was broken, or the link was pointing to somewhere in the ILDE where we couldn't access. But, well, the interesting thing here is that you have a very rapid access to the activities that are grouped into categories. So if, for example, you want to visit something about challenge-based learning, you want to see the reviewed activities of one of your peers for challenge-based learning, you just need to point to this place that says go to the link, and you will open the link. For example, in this case, is the healthy eating activity that a lot of you, maybe more than 10 people, have chosen this activity, and you will see the reviewed activity. Well, just as a matter of curiosity, for the Educaos scenarios, most of you have chosen almost the same, which means you were very interested in the games scenarios, in the assessment tools scenarios, in the challenge-based learning scenarios, and also the collaborative scenarios. As with activities, also most of you have focused in the, let's say, 5 types of activities. Healthy eating, as I said now, which is basically a collaborative activity. A lot of you have chosen storytelling, several storytelling activities, also role-playing, social networks, and also collaboration. So this is the Padlet that we haven't updated since, I think, the Wednesday night. So most of the people that contributed with something yesterday or today may find that his or her activity is not here. It's because we haven't had the time to update it. For the next activities, for the scenarios activities, we are thinking about the possibility to work with a Padlet to develop a collaborative activity with the Padlet. So one possibility that we still, the staff still needs to discuss if it would be interesting to provide a Padlet where you can that you can build collaboratively. And for my part, that's all. If you have any question, I'm here to answer it.
Well, we have a couple of questions on the Q&A. One was,
just before we go to questions, I don't know if I mean, I think Carlos mentioned it, but maybe not everyone is aware that this Padlet is available from the forum. Right, so there's you posted the Padlet, a link to the Padlet in the forum, and people can then look at it and comment on it, and if they think that something is missing or something is mischaracterized, or you know, they see some links that you've missed, then they should post that to the forum, and then you can update the Padlet, right?
Yes, and we have just copied the link on the Q&A window. So if you're following the session now, you can also access it.
So shall we go to? Shall we respond to some of the questions from the Q&A?
Sure. Do you want to
start? The first one was about heuristics, and the question was: are specific heuristics for computer activities? Are there specific heuristics for lesson planning? Now, there are, and I think in both in the readings that we gave on heuristics and in the template in the ILD, there are some specific heuristics or collections of heuristics for e-learning. I'm not aware of anything that's kind of specifically for lesson planning, but I think that again, some of the heuristics that were designed for either usability or for e-learning would be relevant to any kind of lesson that you're planning. Some things are specific to the environment in which you're working or the situation in which you're working. and in that case you would need to define heuristics that are appropriate for your situation. Definitely, this is a field that requires some more research. So I think that, you know, if somebody is looking for a topic for their master's or their PhD, then developing kind of heuristic evaluation protocols for learning design in general, and not specifically for e-learning, is something that there is some work to be done there. Anybody else wants to comment on this?
No, not specifically. I think you addressed most of her questions.
There's another question that, you know, saying that it's very hard to do the activities, read colleagues' work, and comment. And Margarita, Eleni, I think this would resonate with your experience, right? When we were talking before we went live about the time pressure. So maybe you want to take this opportunity to comment on your experience and your attempts to interact with others.
As I told you before we went on live, that we had to finish. We had to finish. We had a lot of stress to finish our own activities, and we didn't have time to comment on other people's work, and not even look at them. I had a really quick look at them, and I did it once I finished my activities. That is this morning. There was not enough time. Margarita, would you like to add something?
I think it was something very beautiful to look at the comments of the others when they post their activities at the forums. You see how much everyone tries to do everything, is a little confused about the activity. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And I enjoyed very much the dialogues between some of them. I wish I had the time to participate in some dialogues, and I've seen some of the work of others, of the activities, 10, let's say, it's time for each activity. And I think that everyone is doing something over our heads, let's say. Here in Greece, I'm sure of it. The forums are very educational, I have to say. Because if you go to some links of the others' activities, you can see what you want to do, how they did it, to change something for what you have in mind. I think it's very good to interact with others. That's it.
Well, I think that, you know, there are several advantages of interacting with others. First, just a very basic thing of realizing that you're not alone, right? And that as you know, because when you find it hard and confusing and demanding, and you think, oh, you know, maybe I'm not good enough, you know, maybe I'm not getting it, maybe it's something wrong with me, and you go into the forum and you see other people have similar problems, so you realize that it's just part of the learning process. So that's just kind of the, so let's say, affective or social element of seeing that other people are sort of going through a similar experience. The other thing is that, I mean, even from the Q&A, or you said, well, I was having such a hard time doing the task, I didn't have time to look at other people's work. But actually, one way of thinking about how to approach the task is to see what other people are doing. So if there's a task that you're confused about it, you're not sure how to do it, to me it seems natural that first let's go and see what other people are doing, and see, it doesn't mean that what other people are doing is right. But you see a few examples, and one of them makes sense to you and one doesn't, and that helps you sort of think about how you want to approach this task. So there's, you know, there's a benefit of actually looking at other people's work before or during doing your own task. And I think that Margarita, you mentioned very nicely that there are several levels of interaction. You can interact with people through the forums, and that's kind of a more quick and immediate interaction, and it's more in the sort of a meta level about the process of creating or doing the tasks. And you can actually go and look at the tasks themselves and see what people are done and comment on the content of their work. And I think, again, when you see how other people have done this task, it also tells you, what things what things to be careful about. Like you see that somebody did something that wasn't very clear to you, say, okay, this is something that I want to avoid because they made some assumptions here, or they wrote things in a certain way which I thought wasn't very communicative. So you can also learn from other people's mistakes. There is also, so Eleni, want to say about copying?
Not exactly copying, limiting yourself when looking at other people's work. It's great advice, great help to look at somebody else's work, but I reached the point that, especially, let me remember, the one with I forgot it, about the persona, the context. I looked at some other people's work, and I caught myself doing it from their point of view, not my point of view. That's a risk.
That's a very interesting observation, and I think that's. I mean, in a way, that's something that's different about a MOOC versus the way you teach in the classroom, because in a classroom, your students need a lot of guidance in terms of managing the learning process. In this MOOC, actually, we're assuming that you're all kind of seasoned professionals, and you're able to self-regulate your learning. So, it's really up to you to decide when you need that space to just kind of think about things completely, in your own cloud, and when is the right time for you to have a look at what other people are doing, and both for inspiration or for seeing where are the kind of the potholes that you need to avoid. And I think your comment really sort of demonstrates very nicely that there's no sort of simple answer to this. There's no rule that says when is the right time to look at other people's work. But I think it's something that should be iterative, that maybe you want to start working on a task, then have a look at what other people are doing, then go back to your work, and just go back and forth between these things. The other thing that we mentioned earlier is that because there seems to be, there's a lot of energy goes into your own project, and you feel like you might be missing out because you don't have the time to look at what other people are doing, or don't have the time to reflect. That's why in the last week of the MOOC we try to create that space for reflection and exchange of ideas with a longer perspective. So just stick with it, and it will come. Do we have any more questions from the questions and answers?
We have a couple more. I'll just answer them quickly because we are having a long session today, and I think it's because we have two guests, and it's very engaging for us to talk with Margarita and Eleni and really learning about your experience firsthand. So thank you really for joining us today. There are a couple of questions, and one is if Anastasia asked if she can write the activities in Greek. And yes, there's no problem. We won't be able to give you feedback, but I'm sure other participants will be able to understand what you're writing. And also there is Safiria, and they are saying about the commenting and the heuristics, and I think that goes back to what Yishai was saying, and also the amount of time it's taking this MOOC. So we know it's very intensive, and I think this week has been the most intensive of all. I think that we are going to slow down a little bit for week 4 and 5, so they really don't get discouraged and keep working so hard. You're really doing it very well, and we are amazed with all the contributions. So don't worry if you're not following the pace, if you're not finishing the task on time. It's just experience and a process, and something we want you to learn to have this change of mindset. So you can do it at your own pace and only do whatever helps you best. And I don't know if anyone wants to add something. If not, we would just leave it here. We've been live for an hour today, so we'll be back next week. Okay.
I would like to say something.
Yes, please, go.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. As I said before, I had difficulty making learning lesson plans, and this is really going to help me, especially with ICT tools. And summer has just begun, so there are so many Greeks here. I'm sure that they agree with me that we invite you to come to Greece anytime you want.
Okay. Thank you, Eleni. And thank you so much for your feedback and for coming. Thank you, Margarita, as well, and enjoy this weekend, this summer weekend. So see you next week. Yishai, go ahead.
Maria, if you want to just give a quick overview of next week's activities.
Okay, yes, I'll just go very fast. So next week you have less activities, and I think they will be easier. And you will also see the purpose of all the things we've been working on so far. So you will start creating a prototype, something that allows you to test your activity. And with this prototype and your heuristic protocol, you will need to find a friend or your child or a family member to help you evaluate this prototype. And then you will, with the feedback from this person or several people, that's up to you, then you will do a second round on your prototype. So it's a prototype and evaluation week. And as I say, I think next week will be easier. So if you have getting to this point, keep working on it, because it's really the end of the process, and it is really interesting to see the whole process and how everything ties together. Okay, so thank you so much, and see you next week for week 4 of the MOOC. And thanks also for all the people that are here saying comments on the Q&A window. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and a special thanks to Eleni and Margarita for joining us today. Really good seeing you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.